My mom fell, and my dad got into debt because he got scammed, and the shock of that brought him down too. This store is going out of business. What am I going to do? The daughter of the owner of my favorite diner sobbed in front of me. This is my favorite diner. I couldn't fathom it going out of business like this. If you don't mind, I can help you out. You see, I've actually got experience in these matters. I handed the daughter one of my business cards. A few days later, the owner, who had received a business card from her daughter, followed the letters on the card with her eyes and turned pale. It can't be. Mom, what's wrong? The owner's face grew paler by the second. What's that? They have a notice on the door. I arrived at my favorite diner and noticed a piece of paper stuck on the entrance. It says, "We will be closed for a while." What happened? My name is John. I love this diner so much that even an hour-and-a-half drive each way doesn't stop me from going. If Johnny's Diner was in my neighborhood, I'd probably declare to go every day. That's how hooked I am on their food. But it's been 6 months since my last visit. I used to make the effort to go twice a week, but issues with family matters kept me away recently. Wanting to ask around about what was going on, I called out to an elderly lady passing by. "Excuse me, are you a local here?" "Yes, that's right. How can I help you?" "I saw this notice. Do you know what's going on?" Johnny's Diner. The owner fell last month and became disabled, so she can't run the shop anymore. Her husband and daughter kept it going for a while, but it seems the husband is in poor health too, so I suppose that's why. Is it pretty bad? Well, I don't know the details. I see. Thank you very much. Not at all. You're welcome. I thanked the elderly lady. I wonder what happened. With this in mind, I stared ruefully at the notice. I'm 38 years old, and until recently I was the 5th-generation head chef at a long-established restaurant with 100 years of history. After graduating high school, I trained for 12 years at a famous restaurant in New York, then returned home to take over the family business. My old man passed away the year before last, and I became the head chef. But some time after finishing the funeral and everything, I found out that my dad had debt. My old man was not a salaried worker. He must have had anxieties about the future. Apparently, he used the restaurant in our home as collateral for real estate investments. I had lived apart from my old man for a long time, so I had no way of knowing he was making such investments. He probably didn't have any serious health problems, but you never know with people's lives end. One morning, he simply never got up from his bed, and that was that. In the end, I had to sell the restaurant that had been in our family for generations in order to pay back the debt, and the business passed into someone else's hands. Geez, what the heck were you thinking, Dad? My old man, who has been in this business all his life, knew nothing about the world other than being a chef, so maybe he was persuaded by someone. His sudden death was tragic, but just when I thought I'd become head chef and started putting my own twist on things. That was when the debt from the failed real estate investment came to light. The restaurant was also our home, so now I'm living in a rundown apartment, working in the kitchen of a burger joint. What a shame. Johnny's Diner was my go-to place. Johnny's Diner prided itself on its affordable pricing and homey flavor. When you think of a place run by a husband and wife, you usually imagine the husband doing the cooking while the wife takes on a supporting role like serving customers or working the cash register. But Johnny's Diner was the opposite. The energetic wife would handle the main kitchen duties while the quiet, petite husband would assist with the cooking. Their pretty daughter was in charge of waiting tables and working the cash register of this family-run diner. The counter seat was my usual spot, but when I sat there, the kitchen was completely visible, so I saw the owner bossing her husband around. "Honey, the fries are done, so plate it up." "Sure thing. Honey, peel some potatoes when you get a chance." "Okay. Honey, get the sandwiches ready." "Got it." "Sarah, the cheeseburger with onion rings is ready. Take him out." "On it, Mom." "Sarah, a customer's leaving. Ring them up." "Sure, I'll be right there." My parents divorced when I was young, so I don't know what my mother looks like. My old man never talked about her, and there's not even a single photo of her left. So I never grew up in a family that gathered around with the mother in the middle, and my father was a stubborn man of craftsmanship. Even though the same work of serving food to customers is done in the kitchen of a high-class restaurant too, the work is carried out quietly and solemnly. That's why I always found a banter between the family members at Johnny's Diner amusing, and I envied it too. The building was quite old, but it was harmony, and more than anything, I loved the food at this diner. I was separated from my mother when I was 2, so I don't know what mom's home cooking tastes like. But something about the food here feels nostalgic. I've eaten at countless places, but no diner has ever tasted better than Johnny's Diner. I especially like the bacon and cheeseburger, the roast beef, the pork chops, as well as the steak and fries, and the list goes on. And to think the owner collapsed and even the husband is in poor health. I drove an hour and a half to get here. Maybe I should at least say hi to them. Besides, I'm worried about them. I felt a bit bad about it, but I put my hand on the door of the diner. Oh, it's unlocked. I quietly pushed the door open. Excuse me. When I called out toward the back of the dimly lit diner, the daughter peeked out from the kitchen. Yes, sir. As you can see from the notice at the front, we are now closed indefinitely. I'm so sorry about that. Oh, you're one of our regulars, aren't you? Yes, I saw the notice outside. Are you going to be closed for a long time? I asked the daughter. She gave me a small smile when she saw my face, but her expression quickly clouded over at my question. My mom fell ill half a year ago and has been unable to work since then. From then on, my dad has been running the kitchen, but people said the food tasted different from when my mom made it, even though the recipes were the same. Gradually, customers stopped coming. As she said that, tears spilled from her eyes. I see. I kind of regretted showing up here. I made the daughter cry. I felt bad for them, so I was going to give her some words of comfort and leave when the daughter opened her mouth again. That's not all though. There's more. Maybe the daughter wanted to get everything off her chest. I sensed that from her demeanor. Picking up on that, I decided to listen to everything she wanted to say until the end. My dad put a lot of money into investments. When he found out it was a scam, he collapsed in shock. Tears dripped and fell from the daughter's downcast eyes. The same thing happened to my old man. From an outsider's perspective, you'd wonder how one could fall for such an obvious get-rich-quick scheme. But those crooks are cunning. When they find someone in a tight spot, they stir up their anxiety and skillfully manipulate them with their words. And they've dragged them to a point of no return before they know it. Is it going to take a while for your mom to recover? Yes. It'll take at least 3 months to see how her rehab goes. There's no way I can keep things afloat by myself for 3 months. This diner is finished. I can help you out. What? The daughter's eyes widened in surprise at my words. I don't know why I blurted that out, but it's not like it was impossible. However, the daughter's face quickly darkened again, and she reluctantly turned me down. I appreciate the offer, but in our current state, Johnny's Diner has nothing to pay you for your work. So, no, I don't need money. I'm working at a burger joint right now, but for these 3 months, I'll have them switch my shifts to nights. That way, I can come here during the day. We can ask you to do this for us when you're going through such a hard time yourself. It's what I want to do. If there's anything I can do to help this diner, I want to give it my all. Okay, I'll talk it over with my mom. I remembered I had one last business card from when I was head chef at the restaurant in my wallet, so I handed it to the daughter. It was a card I had kept as the sole remaining proof and point of pride that I had been the head chef at a high-class, long-established restaurant. The Blue Pearl. It's a trendy hotel now, but it used to be a high-end, long-established restaurant, right? You were the head chef there. Yes. I'm not a chef now, though, due to some circumstances. Before that, I trained at a restaurant in New York for a long time, so you don't need to worry about my cooking skills, Sarah. What? How do you know my name? Sarah looked surprised. I always heard the owner yelling Sarah in a loud voice from the kitchen. Hearing that, Sarah burst out laughing with a smile. I was glad to see her smile, even if it was just a little. Feeling relieved, I went home for the day. I decided to wait for Sarah to contact me while working at the burger place. 1 week later, I got a call from Sarah and headed to Johnny's Diner after work. When I arrived, I nervously opened the door. I found the owner, her husband, and Sarah waiting for me. John, thank you for coming. "Mom, Dad, this is John, the person I told you about. Nice to meet you, I'm John." After shaking hands with the two of them, my eyes met the owner's intense gaze. Back when I frequented the diner, she had a plump and cheerful appearance, but she had become much thinner and haggard-looking, perhaps because of her illness and the predicament Johnny's diner was in. My heart ached at the sight. I haven't been able to come here recently because of the aftermath of my family's business going under, but I'm a big fan of this diner. So, this may be none of my business, but I was wondering if I could help in any way, I said after being seated at a customer's table and served some coffee. Sarah was sitting next to me, with the owner and her husband across from us, but everyone had the same gloomy expression. Taking time out of my busy work schedule to come here to eat was the thing I look forward to more than anything. So I can't imagine this place disappearing. I'm just a stranger, but I want to help if I can. I wanted them to have hope even if I couldn't tell them to cheer up in such a difficult situation. With this in mind, I tried to persuade them to let me help. "A stranger. You've been coming to this diner for a long time. I remember you," the owner said, gazing at me with teary eyes. "I'll explain from here." The husband gently stopped the owner, who looked like she wanted to say more. I straightened my posture at the dignified face, which was different from that of the husband who was always scurrying around with the owner telling him what to do. I've been relying entirely on my wife all this time, so I fell for that investment scheme thinking it would make her life a little easier. I thought it was safe and secure, but I was wrong. I ended up causing trouble for my family instead. "I'm so sorry." The husband apologized, his head hung in shame. "So, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you owe?" "About $600,000. $600,000. My parents' debt was in the millions, so I didn't think it was such a huge liability compared to that. But for a small-town diner, it's a lot of money. It's not an amount that can be easily repaid." When Sarah showed me your business card, I was at a loss for words. "To think you were the head chef at the Blue Pearl. You see, I used to work there." The owner spoke, her eyes still brimming with tears. "Really? I feel like it's some kind of fate. There were definitely a few waitresses at the restaurant. Unfortunately, I don't remember each person's face, but thank you for everything back then." I thanked her. "Yes. I don't expect you to remember me. After all, I left home when you were only 2 years old." "What? So you're telling me?" I gulped. "No, there's no way such a coincidence could happen. I couldn't imagine such a miraculous encounter in my life. But it's true that I felt a certain nostalgia while eating her food." As my mind swirled with various thoughts, the owner continued talking. "Your father got caught up in investment schemes from a young age, which led to our divorce. But he wouldn't give you up, insisting that you had to stay because you were going to be his successor. So I left home in tears, leaving my son behind." "You're kidding. So you're my mother." When I leaned forward, the owner nodded while tearing up. Sarah was just as shocked as I was. "What? So John is my big brother?" "That's right." "Sarah, I'm sorry for keeping quiet about it until now." "What? Dad, you knew about this?" In response to Sarah's question, her father opened his mouth while shaking his head. "No, I only found out 3 days ago. We decided on a name for this diner when we opened it, but my wife had already made up her mind before we even discussed it. Johnny's Diner. Thinking about it now, she named it with you in mind." Then, the owner continued, "When we parted, you were still so small, but look how you've grown into such a fine adult. I was worried when I heard that the Blue Pearl, which was doing so well, had been sold. I knew you were working at a burger joint too. I'd go in disguise to secretly eat there." "Oh, is that so?" I tried to look back on my memories. Come to think of it, the burger joint I work at is right in the middle of an office district, with a few universities nearby too, so the customers were mostly young people. Women tend to go to trendier places for lunch, so there are far more male customers than female customers. It's safe to say elderly female customers are practically non-existent. The current system is different from the old one, where orders are placed by a touch screen rather than in person. I don't get a lot of opportunities to interact with the customers, but I remember the old woman because she stood out so much. That woman always wore a wide-brimmed hat, sunglasses, and a scarf all year round. and always sat at the counter seat facing outside. Come to think of it, if I recall her build and aura, that might have been the owner of Johnny's Diner. My mother. The husband gently handed a handkerchief to the owner, who quietly wept. Well then, that settles it. When I said that, the three of them looked at me and said in unison, "What? Please relax and focus on your rehab. You can rest until you feel better too, sir. For now, I'll do my best for these 3 months while I whip Sarah into shape." Whip me into shape? That sounds tough. Sarah looked at me with an anxious expression. Oh come on, now we know we're not strangers. It's okay for a big brother to teach his little sister a thing or two, right? That's true. I'm a bit scared, but I'll do my best. I'm counting on you, big brother. Sarah gave me a small nod. You're gonna work at Johnny's Diner during the day and the burger joint at night, right? Will you be okay? Even getting here is a hassle, you know. The owner looked at me with concern. I'll be fine, mother. Whose kid do you think I am? I'm your son, after all. At my words, the owner wiped her tears with a smile. Sarah, make sure you memorize my secret ratio for the dipping sauce. Okay. Pops, you don't need to hate the pan so much to sear the pork chops. Got it. It's better to cut the veggies this way so the flavor doesn't escape. Well, I see. I'm learning a lot. After I started working at Johnny's Diner, I was only getting about 3 hours of sleep a day. It definitely wasn't easy physically, but I had thought I'd become all alone after my dad died. But now I miraculously have a family again, so there's no way I won't give it my all. Sarah made lots of mistakes at first, but she stuck with it to the end without ever complaining. And so, after 10 days of preparation, Johnny's Diner opened for business once again. I heard you were reopening, so I came to check it out. Oh, are you a part-timer? A man who seemed to be a regular opened the door. Hi, how are you doing? I greeted the customer with a smile. You were a customer here before, weren't you? I sat next to you at the counter a couple of times. Yes, I'm a part-time worker here starting today. Nice to meet you. I see. I hate to say it, but I think it'll be hard to replicate the owner's flavors. That taste is one of a kind. Yes, I was a regular at Johnny's Diner too, so I understand what you mean. What would you like to order? Let me see. I think I'll have the roast beef with mashed potatoes. You got it. 1 plate of roast beef and mashed potatoes. I called out to the kitchen. Don't worry, I'll be right next to you, so you can cook it with confidence. Okay. I'm really nervous to serve a customer my cooking for the first time. Sarah was doing the cooking with her father's assistance. During these 10 days of preparation, Sarah and her father cooked and taste tested the entire menu under my guidance, and it was more than acceptable. There shouldn't be any complaints about the taste going downhill now. It's ready. Pops, please serve it to the customer. The husband set the plate of roast beef and mashed potatoes on the customer's table. Wait, did Sarah make this? What a surprise. Well, let's dig in. The customer had a few bites of the food. We all watched with bated breath. Oh, the customer tilted his head, the cutlery still in his hands. Oh no, what do we do? It must not be good. Sarah, who had been peering out from the kitchen, looked like she was about to cry, but the customer kept wolfing down the dish, finishing it off spotlessly in no time. Delicious. Setting the empty plate on the counter, the customer exclaimed loudly. It preserves the owner's flavors while making it even tastier. Sarah, the roast beef and mashed potatoes you made is fantastic. Thank you so much. The customer said he wanted to try the other items on the menu too, so he'd be back tomorrow. He had a big grin on his face as he paid at the cash register. I'll have the cheeseburger with fries. I'll have the pork chops. Excuse me, can we order? The table seats quickly filled up after that, with customers raising their hands here and there. Yes, I'm coming to you in order now. Looking outside, there were customers having trouble finding a seat. Oh man, things are getting busy. It's gonna be hectic. I took orders one after another and relayed them to the kitchen. Sarah and her father cut the food with superb teamwork. Pops, I'll take this out. Aunt John, thank you. Phew, we're so busy. His health was not at its best, but he pushed himself to be out at the diner because he couldn't put the burden on his daughter alone. He was probably desperate to make up for his failed investments, but his face, with sweat running down it, was full of contentment. It would take time, but if we kept at it as a family, little by little, we'd solve the money issues eventually. For those 3 months, I came to Johnny's diner every single day, without fail. Of course, I taught them how to cook, but I also agreed to drive my mother to and from her outpatient rehab. Even without me, Pops and Sarah are running the diner just fine now. As expected of the two you trained, Mother, I spoke while gripping the steering wheel to my mother, who was sitting in the back seat. Now, we get a line of customers every day. At one point I considered closing down. You know, it's all thanks to you, John. I really appreciate it. My mother peeked out from between the seats to express her gratitude. Right now, she's leaving the kitchen to Pops and Sarah while she just does the cash register. John, if you don't mind, would you consider taking over the diner? Pops and Sarah want that too. Hearing that, I pondered for a while. You guys will be fine without me now, Mother. Pops and Sarah are doing a great job. Actually, I got an offer to be the manager at the burger joint I'm working at now. I'll come to Johnny's diner as a regular customer, and if things get busy, I'll drop by to help out when I have time. After I said that, silence filled the car. Believe it or not, I really enjoyed working in the kitchen at the burger place. I had just discovered the joy of chatting and laughing about nothing with regulars and students I'd befriended, and being energized by my job when they say it was delicious. Come see us sometimes. After a long silence, my mother said that briefly. When I looked back, she looked sad. I smiled, trying to reassure her. Come on, Pops and Sarah are waiting. Cheer up. Yes, I fully understand how Mom feels, but as son of a different father who suddenly showed up, in the family she had been living happily with until then, closing that distance isn't so easy. But a little bit at a time is okay. Little by little, I want to be there for them as a part of their family. I hurried down the road to Johnny's diner, pretending not to notice my mother's tearful voice.